Welcome to another episode of Three Aficionados. I'm Steve Yip. I'm here with Peter Pidden and Daniel Ross. We like to talk about all things analog, usually cars, watches, and other things that are typically a little bit less digital. Today, we're going to be chatting about watch news and car news and updates to the collections, but in particular, going to be focusing on some of the Longines Hodinkee collaboration, the Omega Aquaterra Olympic special edition that I don't know too much about, that Daniel's going to be filling in the blanks on. And we'll be talking about some further news and revelations about the Corvette Z06 based upon the new platform. And finally, an update on the GT2 RS that we've been chatting about back and forth. So with that, we're going to pop it off with that phrase that we like to always use for inappropriate purposes, but mostly alcohol-based discussion. Popping it off today with a Corona. Bam. While Peter is drinking his cocoa. What is it that you're drinking again out of your fish cup?
So it's basically it is basically like cocoa with stevia in it, because I can't do lactose, but I did put some alcohol in it for the boys. So
just gotta put a little stevia in there and make it a little bit sweet.
Exactly, yeah. So cheers, gentlemen.
So now
cheers,
cheers, boys. Now we have too many nicknames for Peter. I think there was the Truly Cherry, and now we have Cocoa.
Cocoa,
the stevia-enriched drink, boy. And Daniel, what are you drinking today in your burlap sack background?
Oh yeah, back in the sack, as I say. Back in the sack, having the time of my life. I've got one of these Leffe. If y'all have a drink, that Belgian stuff.
I think you have the best drink of all of us. Not to knock Peter's cocoa.
That's okay. I think it is a gooder.
It is. Oh well, that's that's a mismatched branding there. Oh yeah, it's got
a fancy cup.
Yeah, for sure. It tastes even better than it looks, I promise.
Well, this tastes just about as bad as it looks. It's a Corona, and it has no lime. And it's all I have in my fridge, so that's what I get. So that brings us up to speed with what we're drinking today, but what are we sporting on the wrist? Mr. Patagonia in the burlap sack. What are you sporting there?
Oh, I got my classic sporty chronograph on, my BMW watch that I like to wear, So yeah, photos of that up on our Instagram page, people who are interested. What about you guys?
Peter?
I have on a watch I have not shown you guys, I don't think, before, and honestly I don't really wear it that much. And I think I sent it to Steve a long time ago, but
nice.
It is I wish the camera would focus, but it's a Swatch, and it's a Hodinkee like collaboration thingy, and it's automatic, and it has little H's all over the back of it. It's completely white for anyone who's not watching the video, and it's got like just the littlest hints of colors in the dial. So it's kind of interesting. I don't have anything like it, and I barely ever wear it. The reason I don't wear it is honestly just it feels very cheap on, and I have no issue with that, but it feels like you could break it and you could do damage to it super easily. Like it just doesn't feel like, and I don't wear it very much. So I was honestly going to consider looking up to number one, see if they're sold out, and number two, look up the value on these right now and see maybe if it was worth my time. But I mean, if not, whatever, I'll just keep it because it's kind of cool. I just like number one, really the only reason I bought it, and I thought like, oh, it's kind of cool. I don't have any watches like this because it's completely all white. I thought it was kind of different, but once I actually put it on my wrist, I'm just like, this isn't necessarily for me. It just feels kind of different. But what are you wearing, Steve?
Well, I'm wearing something to reflect the occasion and my outfit, which is sparkly and black. Black and Sparkly is the name of the game, and today it is the 116500LN Daytona Black Ceramic. We're going black dial today, not the white dial, and I think it'll be pretty reflective of some of the updates and news we've got today. And it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, boys.
Ooh.
Yeah, happy
What are
Halloween.
you two going as? Daniel? Burlap man?
I've dressed up as a successful individual. Yeah, I'm pulling that one off today.
You're pulling it off every day. You're successfully stealing my heart.
Why are you dressed up as Freddie Mercury for Halloween? What are you trying to tell us?
I'm going as this burned gentleman here in the background of the YouTube video. For anyone who can't see it, is a depiction of my beautiful artwork.
And for those who don't recall, Peter does not burn people for a living. Peter is aiming to save people for a living from burns, not the sick burns that Daniel doles out at me in my Freddy Krueger outfit, apparently, but primarily just, those burns that, remove your skin. And I guess the medical knowledge is you've got an understanding of how much of your skin you can burn to determine how much you got to hydrate them and, get them all transplanted and transferred over to plastics. That's my road understanding. And it's been a long time since I've done that kind of diagram. I'm very abstracted from that in oncology. For me, I'm in preference of keeping my skin. And I'm going as, again, black and metallic and shiny. And we'll go into why that is, because I like to coordinate my outfits. And today it's black and shiny silver things. Daniel's going to give us a little bit of a revelation into the watch news that we'll be leading off. So Daniel, take it away with some updates from Omega.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Omega introduced a pretty exciting new model, I think. It's the Aquaterra Seamaster and 41 millimeters in stainless steel. And it's come out with this beautiful white ceramic dial that they used laser engraving to achieve a pretty icy look. So pretty exciting. It's a special edition, not a limited edition. So this is one of their commemoration models, the second commemoration model that they've now released in collaboration with the Beijing Olympics. So I believe its full name is the Omega Seamaster Aquaterra Beijing 2022 Olympic Special Edition. So, names are getting pretty good now, got that classic movement in it, the new one there, the 8900, 60-hour power reserve, 150 millimeters water resistance. So it's checking all the right boxes. It comes on a nice stainless steel bracelet, and it has a solid case back with a Beijing Olympics commemoration engravement design. So that's pretty much it there. I mean, I think I like everything. I like a lot of things about it. One thing that I would change, if I could, would be to give it a viewing case back, as I think that's kind of like in line with the spirit of the games, that show off the movement that's inside, and it's quite a beautiful piece to show off. So I'm sure there's another way that they could have incorporated the Beijing commemoration in another way, still keeping it subtle, keeping it on the back somewhere.
So tell me about the dial. The dial almost looks like it's meteorite meets a Grand Seiko, kind of snow colored, and I imagine that's probably to reflect the Olympics. Yeah,
that's right. That's to commemorate the winter games. So just kind of like Grand Seiko did their snowflake to kind of represent to the mountains. This is what they've done here, and they've accomplished that by doing a multi-stage laser engraving process in their white ceramic. So yeah, pretty cool.
Would you guys think about it? Would you go snowflake or would you go this one? I mean, kind of different watches, but for the dial.
Well, I think that they are inevitably going to be compared for like the obvious reason that they're already competitors.
Mhm.
And then there's some strong similarities, so like we know that Seiko manages to accomplish their design by using a pressing technique, whereas Omega's technique is vastly different, using lasers to get really crisp cuts and nice tiny little details put into the dial. So I think if I had to pick, it would come down to the finer details rather than just the finishing on the dial, because I think they're both like probably equally beautiful and slightly different. Yeah, it's a nice watch, and I think it's kind of bringing something neat to the table.
The case back does nothing for me.
No, I agree.
I agree with that. Yeah, it's kind of.
I like
They
the
missed the
color.
opportunity there.
Yeah. I mean, the colors are, that's nice that they've got a bit of the Olympics nod, but yeah, I really don't like the back of it personally. I mean, I'm sure that there's some people who love it and see it as a big commemoration, but I don't know. I think the major thing that stands out for me that I like the most about it is the bracelet with the polished center links. It, I believe, is the same bracelet that they have on one of the new Omega Speedmasters, that I really wish that I could have on my Moonwatch. I think that that's like one of their nicest new designs, and I also really like the tapered lugs that kind of look a bit like the Speedmaster again as well. Peter, are you taking this home, or are you leaving it in Beijing?
I actually really like it, to be honest, compared to some of the past Olympic collaborations and things like that. It kind of hits home for me. Like you guys said too, the dial's really cool with that. It looks like it took me a minute to kind of see it, but it's almost has like a snowy effect to it kind of thing. And it's interesting. It's got I also like the blue hour markers and things like that. It's actually kind of inspired me to put this watch on today too, because I thought besides the bracelet and everything like that, the dial and everything kind of remind me similarly to it when I looked at it originally. But this thing's cool. I really like the colors. I'm a big blue fan, so kind of does it for me. As well as you said, the center polished links there on the bracelet and things like that just looks really clean. To me, it looks maybe it's just the photos, but it looks very, very shiny and just looks very like proper. I'd like to see it in person, but looks really cool. One addition that they could add, kind of like you guys said too, would be a open case back. I think that would add kind of just to the overall aesthetic of the watch, because the case back doesn't really do much. Like you said, it's kind of just there. And
Yeah,
one thing I've always loved, honestly, is like I think like one of the coolest things about a watch is when you can just turn it over and look at the like inner workings of it. I think that's so neat. And I understandably like not all watches have that, but
yeah, your Swatch watch does pull that off with the open case back. That's really cool. Like I never even thought of one that would have an open case back. I've had a Swatch watch before, and
yeah.
Daniel, have you ever had a Swatch watch?
Yeah, I have, but they never lasted very long
No,
in my quote unquote collection at the time,
and they're usually
They,
quartz, right? So it's kind of unique and pretty cool. I like your watch there, Peter. I think maybe you should hold on to it, but I do get the sense of like, yeah, it could feel a little cheap on the wrist and be kind of interesting to think about it in the context of your current collection, because you've got the jellyfish
Yeah.
G-Shock. So I mean, I guess that kind of really makes your current watch a little bit redundant, right? And I'd be
Yeah.
rocking the G-Shock all day long.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. And I think honestly, if I didn't have the G-Shock, I probably would rock this thing more. But the G-Shock's just a go-to. It's like, oh, that thing's so badass. And I rock it like especially every day. Whenever I was working or whenever I go to school kind of thing, it's always on the wrist just because it's so nice and it's just good and it's just nice to have kind of thing. It's easy.
We were talking last week a little bit about what our predictions were for the Longines or Longinus was what we concluded. That was the pronunciation.
Yeah.
Longinus Heritage Classic Limited Edition collaboration with the Hodinkee was the final conclusion. And I think we talked a little bit about what we thought this might be, but I think that this was a little bit beyond what I was expecting. It's much more of a sector dial appearance, and certainly has some interesting heritage that it harkens back to, and their history. And pretty interesting that it's a very smaller dimension watch. So it wasn't at all what I thought was coming down the pipeline, and actually really reminds me of the JLC Gégé Lecoultre, as one might pronounce it, if one were a little bit douchey like oneself. I think that was a pretty hot watch, and especially when you put it on John Goldberger, put it on his wrist, I think it really suits him. But I don't know if I could really imagine myself rocking it. I do like that it actually has the beads of rice bracelet, so it's really cool how it does have some old heritage cues. Daniel, what do you think? You're a bit of an old man at heart, I'd say. Would you be rocking this on your old man wrist?
There's one situation in which I would wear it, which is if it was a gift and where I, someone didn't know me very well. It's like, I can't tell you that it's not really for me. I mean, I honestly just think it's kind of boring. I was hoping for a bit more. I could see, Robert De Niro's character in Casino maybe wearing it. It's kind of got this old school. I mean, it's definitely got this old school vibe to it.
Yeah.
And there are some times I like retro, but I kind of feel like there's been a lot of retro pieces coming out of late. Mm-hmm. And it seems to be like a, kind of bit of a broken record. Just like, here's another retro piece. Here's another. It's kind of like, feels kind of like going through the motions in a way, knocking off a different style that they just haven't really worked with too much of late. Not really for me.
I do like that they committed, it was a 38.5 dimension diameter, and I really actually do like the way it looks here in some of these photos with the brown leather strap more than the bead of rice bracelet. I think that strap probably suits it a bit better, in my opinion. The other thing also I'd take into account is the fact that here we're dealing with a price point that's a third of what we were talking about with the Aquaterra. Obviously a different punching range and a different point to it, but it's a fairly affordable price point, and it does bring in some of the more retro vibes at a pretty approachable price. So I do give them kudos for doing this. I can't believe I said kudos. But I think it's interesting, but not for me. I could see it going to maybe a friend of mine who really likes to wear a lot of JLC, and I could see him wearing this, although he'd probably turn his nose up at Longines. Peter, would you wear this in between your jellyfish and your Swatch wrist? Where I can't imagine you wearing this, other than it's got a blued silver hand, or blued second hand, right? Or
it's
minute and second.
I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely not for me. I don't think it kind of surprised me, honestly. Like, it's definitely not what I was expecting. It's a lot smaller than I was expecting it to be, which is kind of nice. One of the reasons I've always kind of stuck away, and it's not all Longines or Longinas, but it's just some of them are fairly large, and I'm like I got a pretty small wrist, so I find even my tutor looks sometimes kind of big on the wrist. So that's kind of one thing I've kind of, only certain models kind of work for me, but I was kind of surprised with this 38 millimeters is definitely smaller than what I was expecting. But I'm also not a big fan of this weird style, like rice beady bracelet thingy going on. And one thing I don't like about it too is I kind of, like, whenever you have a bracelet, I find it looks so much better if the ends are rounded to the case. And maybe I'm saying that wrong, but like where the bracelet goes, like I just don't like how it's like straight there, like the lug versus, and there's that little bit of a gap kind of thing. It makes it look like the bracelet's put on like afterwards or something like that. You know what I mean? It just kind of doesn't look so proper to me. So I think in this case, it does look better on the leather strap, But yeah, no, it's just not for me. I'm not like a huge Long John fan, but yeah, that's just me.
I think that one competitor that I'd see to this is the SBGW 231 Grand Seiko that we've talked about. Yeah, obviously it's at a higher price point, but it has similar retro vibes with the creamy dial and simplicity and smaller diameter and a little bit more formal looking. And to me, this doesn't even stand a chance against that Grand Seiko. It's a different goal. I think that, as we're talking about, it's very historical looking. I also wonder, they really promoted this a lot with a lot of the watch celebrities, having Aldous Hodge and John Goldberger and Ben Clymer and everyone kind of give a little bit of an input of their personal taste and impression to it. I would say that I wonder how much of the budget could have been repurposed to better use and really making this a bit of a better watch, in my opinion. But I think it's decent, but it's definitely not for me, not my taste. And I think that we all don't quite have that. I don't know. I feel like this is a very mature taste, and I'm very immature. So let's go to more immaturity. We talked a little bit about the 2023 upcoming Corvette Z06, and I embraced my inner mullet and just wanted to crack a Budweiser, but the closest thing to that is my Corona. And I thought that this thing was a hit. I think that it looks a little bit strange sometimes in certain angles and certain builds, but I think it's a huge hit now that there's a clear description of its specifications, running a V8 naturally aspirated flat plane crank engine straight out of the C8R with 670 horsepower and a really high rev limit of 8,600 RPM. And it's available in coupe as well as convertible. And I think it's a great sounding engine. We listened to it a little bit before, and it kind of reminded us a little bit of a Lamborghini. Thoughts now that we've had this fully uncovered, would you go for the regular build that's a little bit more restrained spoiler lip, or would you build it out fully, go for the Z07 package with the aero and with the carbon wheels? Daniel, you think that you're a little too mature for this, or are you a little right?
Am I too mature? Are you crazy? I was wearing a cowboy hat last week, and I'm sitting inside of a burlap sack. I'm not too mature for this. This is right up my alley. Although, I would go. I was reading a little bit about how Chevy is speccing this car out and how the options list kind of builds on top of each other, and how you go from the regular base Corvette C8 all the way up to the Z06 with the Z07 performance pack on it, and how it's pretty crazy. It really is like Porsche going from a Carrera up to a GT3 RS kind of thing, or maybe even potentially its big brother. So I would like the spec that we're seeing right now up on the screen. I think stylistically, that's your taste. That's what I like. Mm-hmm. If I was to live with it every day, this is what I would go with, more or less, kind of like the base, almost like the base Z06 model. That being said, if I could go for the Z07 pack without the big wing on the back, I think that would be probably what I would want. I like everything else, but the big wing is not really. And actually, in some cases, it is my taste, but here I think it just looks really slick when it's kind of, a little bit more subtle on the back end.
Yeah, I think the Z07 package does have a lot of performance added features that I want to think about strategically, and also from a perspective of what are people going to want down the road, and what's really going to shout out. I have a Z06. You're probably going to want to go Z07, but I agree from a design perspective, the more base model, maybe with the additional front dive planes, or there's an optional carbon fiber downforce package, I believe, that's not the full Z07, and then you've got the carbon fiber spoiler that's just like a, almost like a gurney flap. It's just a spoiler, not a lifted full wing, that looks like a weird kind of bat wing thing that reminds me of like Val Kilmer in the bad old days kind of Batmans. So I think that, the more restrained is definitely more up, something that I think is more aligned to you. But I'm immature and I often flip my cars, so I'd probably go Z07, just knowing that that's going to be the one that's going to be sought after. Peter, would you go for any of these, or would you say, nah, I'm not really into domestic?
No, I love it. I'm a big Corvette guy. This is sick. And the biggest thing about me that's been a huge attractor is just like, I've loved how far these cars have come, and this is just like the performance now is just so outrageous for what you think it like. It's just crazy to me that this is a Corvette. You know what I mean? Number one, it doesn't look like a Corvette anymore. Like if you saw that coming down the street with like the very first one I saw, especially like way well, it wasn't that long ago. I'd say it was probably a couple years ago when this new body style like originally came out, or like a year-ish ago. I can't remember exactly, but it was like absurd. I had to like double check to see what it was. But no, I love this. I would probably go with the, like you guys are saying, the Z07, just for number one. It's got the couple extra things with it, but I kind of like just the subtle duckbill spoiler on the original or the other option that it's showing. I think it's kind of cool that way. I've always been kind of a fan of those style of spoilers, and it's a little bit more subtle. This to me just kind of, I like everything else that's loud about the Z06 package, but the spoiler, again, I do kind of agree with you guys being a little bit too out there. They could have maybe done something a little bit different and would have maybe looked better. But to me, I've always thought like, I don't know, I just like a Corvette with a spoiler is never really something that I've ever thought of. It's like a little like duckbill spoiler or something that's kind of just what you traditionally think a Corvette to have, right? Like this spoiler on top, not that it just doesn't really fit me personally. So yeah, everything else is good, but no, I definitely would probably go with the Z07 if you could minus the spoiler out of it. If not, just maybe customize the other, just the Z06 option.
So how would you build yours out, Daniel? Would you go full base and regular wheels? Would you go coupe or convertible, or what would you do in your build? Money no object.
Money no object. So two scenarios. Living in Toronto as I do, I would go for the more base model. I want a little bit more comfort if I'm driving around town. The roads here are just atrocious, and driving anything with big wheels and tight suspension, it's just it's a cracked rim or something not fun waiting to happen. Living in Calgary, where I had for a while there, I would go just like full Z07, max it out, and I wouldn't even think twice about it. I'd be like, yeah, I would. There's certain maybe it would look better if it was like this, but at the end of the day, I wouldn't really be. I would have nothing to complain about. Take a nice Z07, maybe put it in this like nice silver gray color, and enjoy it. Yeah.
Peter, would you build this as orange? Would you go yellow, orange?
The orange, that orange is really cool. There was also like an electric blue color that was on one of the previous, either was maybe like last year's Corvette or this year's Corvette. I think it was last year's Corvette. Stradman actually had one of the YouTubers there, but I really like the color of that. And if they had something kind of similar to that, I would probably spec it that way. But if not, maybe either. I actually that orange is, or sorry, not the orange, the yellow is kind of cool, to be honest.
Yeah, it really alludes to the C8R heritage. So
that's kind of what I was thinking too. It's like very C8, definitely traditional, but I would spec it out for sure. I would say, just for the reason of being, why the hell not? Especially, I think it'd be cool just to get it like full package kind of thing. Just everything you could, and they look really good. I think, especially seeing some like, I think it was just one thing I can't really decide is if I would go with coupe, or if I would go convertible. That's kind of I don't know. I don't always like the look. The hardtop, I actually probably hardtop could be definitely doable. But besides that, yeah, I definitely would fully spec it. Just go full send kind of thing. I think it looks good that way. So
coupe is a Targa. You can pull the top off right in the midsection, and then you get the ability to put that Targa top into the trunk in the rear, and then you also then get a viewing glass case like a Ferrari that you can see the engine.
yeah,
And to me, I'd get the extra carbon bits on the engine and really put that on display. I'd go coupe all day long because you still
yeah,
have the ability to take the top off, just like a 918 or a Supra. I think that to me, that's pretty much the most I want out of a convertible. But with the convertible, apparently they didn't have to adjust anything to improve rigidity because the structure was just so good that they thought that there was almost no flex. So I think Peter's coupe, I'm coupe. Daniel, were you going convertible or coupe? Because I know that you're more of a convertible guy.
I think knowing that it is a Targa, I'd probably go for the coupe in this one. Although I think with the top down, the convertible looks ridiculous right now. Like you guys have seen this, right? Like
Yeah.
those wheels they look mint. Like in combination with everything else, obviously, I'm talking about the top here, not the wheels, right? But like the convertible, you can't go wrong, man. I think, yeah, I pick the coupe and take the top off and enjoy it as a Targa.
For sure. I think I'm going full Z07 track pack. Kind of, I'd go full tilt. I always do, and I think that's a pretty good. Well, actually, so before we leave this topic, what I did is, as soon as this was coming out, when we were chatting about it, I called around everywhere: Alberta, Saskatchewan, Edmonton, Calgary, even Medicine Hat. I tried to see if I had any networking out there. I don't. And then, also remember I bought a Subaru in Lloydminster, which straddles Saskatchewan and Alberta, Daniel. So that's where the STI came from, the Subaru STI, not the other STIs. But that place, I called that up because it was a Chevy dealership, and I was like, put me on the list. So I'm like on the list at a million different dealers, but I'm probably like number 70 everywhere. There was one primary dealer for Western Canada. I think they have the highest counts of Corvettes, so they wanted a deposit, so I gave them a $2,500 deposit to be number 67. I just need to make sure that I don't forget about that, because most likely I'm never going to get called. But yeah, that's I put my name down everywhere just to see if I could get this. Even if I can get it like for a moment, I think it'd be kind of cool car to own for a brief period of time. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds with this car. I mean, it's a bit of a pig. It's pretty heavy. I think it's running about 3,700, 3,800 pounds. But to listen to that engine for about 100K, that's a crazy car. To me, I think it's worth that money. It's definitely value. My wife was sitting there as I was watching like video after video after video, and she's like, "This thing is disgusting. It looks so ugly." And it's the full track back. She's just shitting all over it. I'm like, no, but like it's really great, and for what you get. She's like, oh, you mean value? Well, if it's value, then fair enough, I get it. But like otherwise, you put this up against something else like a Ferrari, and it's ugly as sin. And I get that. I think especially the Z07 really might not age so well from an aesthetic. I think the base model probably looks the best, especially in this silver model, with just a little bit of a spoiler would really do it for me, for if you had to own it forever. But anyways, I've got my name down everywhere, but I think that that's just a crapshoot, because most likely, at least for the first 2, maybe 3 years, these are going to be so hard to get. And I was way too late to the party. And really, even like I called up that one dealer that had like a ton of allocations. They say they get the most. And on the day before they dropped, they were like, we could take you as number 52. And then I like called them up the following day, and they're like, you're number 72, I think. It was just like crazy. There's so many people, everyone and their dog is going crazy for this car, and rightfully so. It's super cool. It's punching well above its weight, and the fact that it's almost 700 horsepower is crazy. But let's talk about other things that are 700 horsepower. And so we've got a final news update that probably could lead to a full news update. We've got a video here. Hopefully it doesn't get too choppy and comes across. This is a video walk around that's kind of pixelated of the GT2 RS that's over at Kulu. And so I've actually made an offer on it. It is a Weissach package with paint to sample volcano gray with magnesium wheels in satin black. And it's got the lightweight bucket seats, and it's got leather interior with platinum silver trim. I think it's actually really beautiful. It's definitely not the color I would have gone for, but it really suits it. And it's definitely the Batmobile. It's got the yellow, black, and gray, and that's why I'm dressed like as a Batman stripper with my black and silver and my black platinum, or my black Daytona, just to match it, because I put this offer in thinking that it was a kind of a low ball offer and it probably wouldn't get accepted. But looks like that might actually come to fruition. I put in my G-Wagon, I brought him over to the dealer, and I said, you know, if you can make it happen for a small delta, relatively small delta, you know, overvaluing and asking for all the money for my G-Wagon, I think I could pull the trigger. And so it looks like it's happening, because he has been able to find a potential buyer who's interested in buying it for all the money. And I'm happy to let that go for this one. So, and that is going to be finalized this week. The G-Wagon's already over there with him. And potentially this all clears and closes this week, right before winter hibernation. Reactions, boys? Am I making a mistake here, Daniel?
Nah, I don't think so. Are you making a mistake? As I've said many times before, it's a really difficult question to answer. I think that if the deal goes through for what the deal is, then I think that you're making a good decision. I think that if it doesn't, then you have to reevaluate your situation before you make another offer, you know?
Sure. And luckily you told me not to flinch, because it was basically coming in at my pretty hard and very low offer. You know, it was basically asking for 80K over my G-Wagon purchase price at MSRP for that value, which brought me to very close to the GT2. So I'm getting a paint to sample GT2 for like well under what the MSRP was for the GT2, which is insane. And that's not even factoring in all of the Weissach package, magnesium wheels, all of the extra options, and the paint to sample factor. And there aren't too many paint to samples. There's only, within Canada, there's 3 paint to sample cars: green, voodoo blue, and this volcano gray. And it's probably my least favorite of all the 3 colors. But that being said, it probably suits this car the best, just maybe not necessarily suits my, you know, immaturity level. But I think it's a killer car. And also the fact that it just looks like a full Batman spec with the black wheels and with the yellow calipers and the leather. It's just unreal. I think it's a super cool car. So I'm super excited. I'm like 90% sure it's happening. And then I just got I had to make sure that I do my due diligence. So I asked for like a pre-purchase inspection, even though it's probably totally fine. And I also had to ask for like service records. It turned out, and luckily I asked for it because I looked at it, because apparently there was service done this year. But when I looked at the service record, it was the tires were replaced. So good, they're good new tires, but nobody's done an oil change or anything on it. So I was like, yeah, I'd like an oil change as well. So they're taking care of the PPI and the oil change, and likely this is all going forward as long as that G-Wagon purchaser goes through with it. So looks pretty good to me. The funny thing to me is that this never came with the floor mats. This has the fabric floor mats, and I remember this was an option on the GT3 RS. You could do a no charge rain floor mat, which you can kind of use for all weather purpose. And I was like, where's the floor mats? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, where's the front plate bracket? And he's like, I don't know, it's not included. I was like, well, that's okay. I have both still from my GT3 RS. Speaking of me keeping, useless shit that I shouldn't have kept from prior cars, and the debatable ethics around that, now I can repurpose that for this car. Even though I'm not putting a front plate on this, it's nice to know that I've got it. And then I've got the mats also, and I've got also the bolster protectors that I kept as well. So I think this car is really ready to go. And if we can get the oil change and the PPI all aligned, it's potentially mine this week. So more to report next week. Peter, do you think that you can keep your confidentiality and not invite your friends to go and steal this from me? We know he always likes high performance Porsches, McLarens, Ferraris in black and dark colors. So don't share this until it's closed.
I don't think he'd like that the calibers are another color. That would be an issue for him. But no, yeah, I think you 100%, if things work out, should go for it, man. It seems like it's a beautiful car and looks outstanding. I love the color. I think it's fantastic. It's got a total black Batmobile vibe to it, like you said. Actually, it does remind me a lot of Larry's GT3 RS that he has, but obviously looks different. But it's just kind of same similarities because his was all black. It wasn't gray, but still, this I do actually like. I would say this gray better personally than the black. I think it has a little bit more uniqueness to it, kind of thing, and it offers just kind of interesting color tones with the carbon fiber. But
yeah, and it makes it much more unique for like if I ever let it go in the future. But I mean, to be honest, this thing is awesome for the deal that I'm getting at. Just when you factor in like what my actual total amount of money that I'm putting into it, it's kind of crazy. So it all worked out well. Luckily, I played the long game, and I think patience worked out here in this situation. But it could always fall through if the G-Wagon purchaser ends up pulling out and gets a realization that maybe it's not really worth it that much just to have 90 kilometers on the odometer when I start driving my G-Wagon, which is just a truck in my opinion. But I couldn't believe that I got 80K for that, to be honest. That's pretty crazy. But here we are, it's winter, and not too many people want a GT2, but a lot of people want a G-Wagon, especially when they're not making any for 2022, at least for now, as far as we know. So we'll have updates next week, and hopefully we can maybe do the next podcast maybe from the inside of the GT2 or something like that. I don't know if we'll have a signal, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I think if I can add, like you've had the GT3 RS experience, the ownership experience across two different manufacturing runs. You know what the GT3 RS brings to the table, and I know as well that you can easily handle the horsepower, power output that the GT3 RS is delivering. So this is kind of like the natural progression. Take a formula that you like and that you're excited about, and then ramp it up a notch. It really seems like a no-brainer to pursue it. So I wish you the best of luck with it.
Super nerd move is going to be that I'm going to have my old license plate that I usually tend to always have on Porsches. And so it's one that has 944 in it, which is always nostalgic to me because my dad had 944 when I was a kid, and he still has it from 83. So I was raised in that, and it really built up the passion for the brand. And it actually has BRW in it. And I'm just like, Bruce Wayne. It's totally So yeah, I'm a dork, and it's a Batman car, and it's a Batmobile. It's the goddamn Batmobile. If anything were the Batmobile, it's this. The only thing I'm going to do to this for now, though, is I'm not going to be going full dork and putting a bat signal on it, but I think that I would switch out the turn signals. So in Canada, there's the amber corner lights. I'm not sure if America also gets it. I believe it's all North America has the orange corner lights for the turn signal in the front. So you can pop those out and change them to clear So I'll order some clears, and I did that for the GT3 RS, and it made a big difference. To me, it's not looking awful in this situation, but it would look much more clean or cleaner if I were just to put clear Euro spec turn signals. Or am I wrong? Does it look good? I don't think so.
I always make fun of you guys. You're like, oh, it's perfect, but the only thing that I would change are the tiny little turning indicators. It's like, wow.
Agonize over stupid details. Typical Porsche owner.
It's like, I'm like, take it easy.
I also immediately called up the dealer and I was like, do you have any GT2 RS die-cast models? Like the little mini champ things? And they're like, no. I was like, what about the GT2 RS Club Sporter 935? He's like, hold on one second. He's like, I got the last Club Sport. Put it on the side for you. And just to underline how cheap I am, I was like, but I saw that you had it on sale, right? So it's like 15% off on your parts. He's like, not till November. He's like, I'll just put it on my table for you. You cheap fuck. You're totally that guy who keeps the floor mats, aren't you? Yeah, that's me. Toolkit, floor mats, that's me. But
oh yeah.
It paid off. It paid off. Yeah. So with that, I think that we've got some good leads, good news, and hopefully it all finalizes this week. I'm very excited because the very last remnant of some warmish weather that you could drive this in is going to be quickly vanishing this week. I think this will be the last time that I could actually take it out. So hopefully next time you'll be seeing the GT2 RS under my stewardship. Also, douchey phrasing of word in choices. But whatever. Okay, well, I'm not going for a Longines. I'm not going for an Omega. I put my name for a Z06, but who the hell knows if and when that will ever happen. But I do know that I am going to be Bruce Wayne next week. And if I'm not, you can feel free to ridicule me. I'll be wearing something slightly less sparkly, maybe a little bit more restrained, but probably not wearing the cowl though. So thanks again for joining us for another episode of Three Aficionados. We'll lead you out and appreciate all the listeners, all one of you. Thanks again, and thanks boys for making the time. All the best. Take care.